itself has become this kind of place of reorganizing, restructuring, and retelling myths in a way that we're flooded with constantly and can never really even have breathing space to open up our own spaces of defining the world. I'm talking too much, so
No. That's what I'm talking about. This is a filter process and a creation process, if you want to look at it that way. Now, I'm just as guilty as anybody else putting up my videos, but I should say that most of the ones I've written are text, not video. I want people to voice them internally as they read them. So let's get into writing a new myth together, which is exciting. That's why I'm here. I always generate new myths by first starting with an artifact. Now, the actual artifact is a YouTube video, which combines this image with this piece of sound. Okay, so that's the artifact. That is the basis of which we'll write something better, something new. So what I want you to do is describe, first of all, this image to me. What is it that you see? What is it? How is it? How big is it? What color is it? Etc. And I do have a small description on the bottom, but that's more of a historical analysis. I want you to look at the image itself as a picture, like you would start anywhere, perhaps. You can start with an idea, or you can start with a picture, or an artifact can be lots of stuff. I just happen to choose this combination here. So who can start describing this tower, this railroad thing, house, whatever? I don't want to do it for you.
It looks lovely.
Oh,
Dark,
nice.
but foreboding. And what it makes me think of is the one-slitter from the Lorax.
Who?
The one-slitter.
Huntsler?
And he lives in a shack all alone, kind of a tower.
Okay. And that's a cartoon, or?
The Lorax.
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss.
The myth.
The myth of our
The myth, definitely.
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss.
Oh, Dr. Seuss. Oh, Dr. Seuss. Oh, all right.
It's intellectual.
Okay, very good. Okay, that's a hell of a lot more description than I would have given. So who else has something to add? Yes, ma'am.
Place of exile.
Excellent. Cool. Yes.
Or a remainder.
Who? Yes.
A remainder?
A remainder, like a meth? Or add something?
A leftover, yeah. Something
Oh, okay.
from an earlier time.
I want to say 4 towers, that you have the man-made railroad tower, 2 telephone pole communication, and then the tree tower. And they're all like barren. Tree
Yeah.
has no leaves. So we haven't said it.
Yes, that's very true. If you're going to get into this, that's the way you do it. Very true. And you have the power box.
Right.
I don't know how you describe it otherwise. It's
Well, communication boxes, the little wires for the railroad signaling.
That's a comm box, you said?
Communication or power.
Yeah. And then you have this telephone pole.
2 of them. Signal pole.
Okay. All right.
And then the parallel lines for the railroad tracks. A lot of parallel lines here.
Okay. Rail tracks, got it.
There's a sort of sense that there's a sense of great distance, but you're sort of imprisoned in the tower, so you can see the great distance from here, from a long way off in the train, but you can't get there. So
There's kind of a hint of a mountain range in the back, but you can't really tell.
Nice. Kind of freedom, or
A hint of freedom, right?
it's kind of like analysis or analogy into mountain range.
It's just this whole feeling of the Gestalt. It's got this feel of industrial age, kind of this decaying industrial age. The ground is empty, it's barren, it's sterile, it's lifeless. The trees not even having any leaves.
Abandonment.
Yep, you got lonely. That's good.
There's actually a lot of sky, and these like fluffy clouds and then these wires that like swoop through the air.
Yeah.
You get some darker blue.
Well, it looks kind of like a little conventional little drawing of a house, but it's a little bit distorted. The roof lines are a little bit off, and it's oddly, weirdly sitting on top of this structure. You know, it's just lifted up off the ground and really this kind of, well, it's like not craggy rocks, but it's a very harsh kind of structure things that it's lifted out of the ground on.
Yes, it's sort of slapped together.
It's not, you know, it looks very intentional, very built, but it's also very, well, it's like those craggy things in the sci-fi movies or the Lord of the Rings or something. There's rocks that the cast will sit on, but it looks like it was kind of popped up out of there. It was a little house sitting on the ground and up it went. So it's a little bit that way.
Cool. Well, I'm having a sense that we're moving along pretty well. If I'm rushing, I don't mean to rush, but what I want to do next is play you the soundtrack that goes with the image. And I should tell you that I did this from a collage from freesound.org. So I downloaded a bunch of stuff and I played with it until this is it. It's about minute 50. So, what does that first humming part sound like? What is it?
All right now. All right now.
Maybe listen to it first, right?
You note that I put the waveform here to help you get through the points in time. This is a middle sound that helps to jar you back into the waveform. It's sort of a call. Well, giving it away. Shoot. I would hope that there's also some melody, a little bit of happiness coming, or possibly some transformation pending. That's what I tried to do with the soundtrack. Okay, now we're back at the last third. The wave is like the train coming through. But I think it's very simple. Oops, rock and roll, all right. Who can help describe the soundtrack? And really, I want you to do it separate from the house first, and then we'll try to look at it together. What do you think?
Can I make a request?
Yes.
Can we listen to it with your commentary? Can we listen to it again without any commentary so that we can all reflect on it?
Yes. comments, descriptions thereof?
There's hope there.
Really, just describe it further. What's hope about?
Well, you know, you look at that lonely building, and it looks, but you feel energy coming in, there's a playfulness in there at places. It's like there's hope that that can change, that there's new things.
Cool. Great. Yes.
Okay, well, the first part was that, to me, especially the first time I heard it, the second time was quite similar. It was that constant, 60 cycle hum that pervades everything that we have around us. It's just there all the time, and it's in the background. And when I notice it, I find that very annoying and just kind of, wish it wasn't there kind of thing. And then, the next to the whooshing stuff was like the sound of, it was like a car going by on the freeway or something, whoosh, but it was like extended, very long period of time, which again was not a pleasing sound to me. And then there was some kind of sawing, and it turned into a little twinkly music and stuff, which I thought was just kind of a happy overlay to distract from the underlying mechanical, electrical hum and the cars going by and so on. And then the cars and so on competed again. And then it ended with this little burst of happy music, which was sort of a Hollywood happy ending slapped onto the end of this very rather ominous and almost subconscious underlying just constantly after.
Was that facetious or was that emboldening you? Was it nice to hear or was it?
No, it was just, it was a Hollywood happy ending. It was not related to the other stuff. It was like,
Stuck on. You were
and yeah, okay, so.
Who else has an idea about the soundtrack?
Well, yeah, I do. It's interesting. I'm interested in the sort of dance of image and sound, and I noticed that just to look at this, and we described it as this like lonely image. I didn't actually like put myself into the scene, but through the music, then I felt, because it's sort of like this exploring, like this sound had, I think in the middle part, it was kind of like a sneaking around, like that ding, ding, ding. It's like peeking and peering, but then I felt like that was interrupted. Like, and so it's interesting that like, I felt like, the message there that I made was, we can look around and like, investigate, but like only so far. And then like a car comes and interrupts the sort of magic of the moment or no trespassing, we just can't go there. So it was an intrigue towards like investigation, but like getting at it but not being able to get out of the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm starting to use the word, I just lost it. See, I just didn't have vision. For this picture, which we're not on, is surrealistic. The artists would usually, but in some ways, we have a nature background. We're off the picture, but the music I didn't like. It just sounded like too much tension and like a fake little happiness. But it just felt ominous and just did not feel good. The whole thing doesn't feel good nowadays. Good. I'm glad you mentioned about the sky behind it. And that's what sort of gets that fish called surrealistic, that there's nature in this thing that doesn't belong. But it's not so prominent, so you would say.
Yes.
I tend to agree that whole techno music kind of hum, I find it disturbing.
Okay.
And that people make whole songs out of that stuff. It's kind of a comment for our whole, this whole generation, this whole culture that's just immersed in technology. And the sound of a hand beating on a skin drum is so much more enlivening or something.
That duplicates the heart of some of the people.
Yes.
Ancient times, yeah.
Cool. Now, this is bankrupt Detroit, so I'm not sure where it falls in your timeline.
It's interesting to me, like coming in late and missing all of the introductory information just in time to see the picture and hear the music. It looks like a watchtower at a prison camp.
Well, it's called the Watchtower.
Yeah, not knowing that it's a railroad watchtower until just now. I agree with him in that the music, it adds to this kind of somber, and the image too.
Menace.
Yeah, edgy.
Okay, well, I'm not so sure you're saying, God, this didn't relate to the image, or we'd rather.
No, it does relate to the
It
image.
does, okay, so it does work in that sense, but who wants to do this, over and over?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be telling me a good story or one that I want to hear or read about unless there's some really juicy, wonderful thing that happens
Well,
at the very end of it. I guess that's what
We're going to take this information and drive something better. That's my promise. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I might be I might be kind of heading towards the direction they're going, so maybe I should gloss it.
Okay. Yep, you know where I'm going.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Ma'am?
Yeah, just my images from it. The sort of throbbing sound at the beginning was like a diesel engine kind of waiting to go. The sounds after that just seemed like the chaos of our current sort of culture, just little snippets of all kinds of things coming along. And then there was one little peaceful moment that was such a relief. And then the throbbing started up again. And then I did find that the happy music really had a home kind of feel to it, and it just jarred. So, but there was just that little moment in the middle where it seemed like the blue sky for a moment, but the rest of it was that sort of chaotic bit of this and bit of that kind of culture that we.
The happiest thing to me was the sound of the tools and saw, because I can't wait to get my hands on them.
Okay, well, the premise then is to understand what the artifact is telling us, good, bad, or otherwise, and translate or imprint to write a better, write a new myth. That isn't a myth, that's just an artifact, that's just the foundation. So if I can, why don't I tell you as a point of departure that this tower is now in 2035, and it's in the middle of a food forest. So now the tower has a vastly different function. It's a lookout, a place to have a picnic or whatever, but it's now repurposed. So what about a food forest and the tower can we bring forth in terms of archetypes? Okay, some symbology. I guess in my world, this tower is oversight. It symbols oversight and care, communication, perhaps. Okay, so we're starting to imprint a new myth based on that sort of setting, perhaps. We need to have some sort of push here. So who can start driving the story with some of these spiritual or other values?
I can see being a meditation tower or retreat center that you just go up to the closer to God.
Okay. Retreat center. What else? How else can this story be positive in a new myth?
Yeah, it's open positive.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what I want to. We got a negative myth. You guys have a sense of what the base material is here, the descriptions, and how we can use them in a new way? This is the critical part. To imprint something better in a story. We can talk about characters. You know, who's the characters? A tribe? Is there a tribe here working in the food forest? I'm just making this up on the fly, so I don't have the right answers for you. What else could be a part of the characters or the theme here? What does the food forest do? What's the function of the food forest?
Sustain itself.
Pardon?
Sustain itself.
Sustain the humans.
Well, and it's not secondary. Really, truly.
Okay.
Forest doesn't care about the human.
Does anybody want to recommend a couple of characters? How about a caretaker? How about some youth who might be working the soil, composting?
I'm seeing like, that's like a tool repository kind of tower, and there's like folks mending and, restoring tools.
Perhaps there's a water tank.
It's a food tower. Someone sits up like there all the time and plays both for the forest and the people working in the...
There we go.
So what if I told you that the food forest is a prize that other tribes are trying to get to? Uh-oh. Then the tower might be a guard tower as well. Not impossible in the future. I don't expect us to write a new myth, but I think we can lay the groundwork for it. That's what I want to do today.
So I guess I have a question. So you're going from today, and you're saying arbitrarily 30, 25 years out or whatever,
Yes.
and what's it become? So is that considered to be the way myths are made? Is that you start like 25 years from the event that was in the past, and then you say, oh, well, how did the earth get here? Well, the sun got pregnant in the sea or something. And then you make the story go forward to end up your conclusion? Or do you make a myth to somehow guide you towards your conclusion?
No, in my world, it's wide to narrow. And the wide part is the new dates, because it's a new opportunity.
Okay.
It kind of helps wipe the slate in a way. We can pray about this.
So you're starting at the conclusion, so to speak, and you're going back and finding a way to explain how you could get there, and then you implement that way to get there.
No, I'm saying we start at 2035, and
Right.
we'll describe it and write it and move forward. Is that
Okay. Yeah, so it's sort of a visioning thing.
It is.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, it is. Thank you for that. Yes.
So we know from that old railroad grounds and so forth can be reclaimed.
Okay.
That is very possible.
Right. That's exactly right. And what about some of the descriptions of the existing tower? Are these going to carry forth, or are we going to have new energy and new light here? It's up to you.
Depends on the individual and having the tower.
Pardon?
It partly will depend on the individual and having the tower and the purpose that it's taken on. You look in the middle of the food forest, it's no longer in such a stark environment.
Right.
But if there's nobody else there, it's still lonely. And in essence,
Yes.
Well, that's better than neighbors.
depends on the individual and the purpose that they're there. There might be somebody that completely finds solace in tending a food forest orchard on their own
Right.
and can reach out to community from there. Because what's around the food forest?
What do you want to be around food forest?
Well, that.
You tell me. That's why we're doing this project.
Right. No, I just put it as a rhetorical question.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay.
I think the Midwest was mainly a forest, so that's going to come back when people stop poisoning it.
Yeah. Midwest?
Yeah.
But not the plains, but the Midwest, like Detroit.
Yeah.
Not the wets.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Where does Coward Street?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, actually, right now, a food forest is a myth to me. I mean, I didn't even see or hear anything about it yesterday. And I don't know really what that term means to anybody else. So to me, if there's a myth of a food forest out there.
Well, part of the job of the mythologist is to define terms. That would be something I would have to talk about. You're right, very right.
Just on in terms of the transition, because that's what it seems like we're really trying to work on here, is what place does myth have in grounding us in our historically conditioned place? How does it help us make sense of the world and interpret it? And I remember like the night after I read Endgame by Derek Jensen, I just kind of like was out wandering around looking at the soon-to-be ruins of industrial civilization, wondering what the hell I'm going to tell my children. And it was something kind of came in my head that I thought was really funny. So, well, you're going to tell them probably the oldest story that's ever been told. Once upon a time, there were a group of people who did not respect the world, who indulged in pride, and who ended up destroying themselves. And from them, we have learned lessons that we must treat the earth well and respect all creation as if it is ourselves. And it's a very, very simple, very simple thing. And I think that in all honesty, I mean, those are people who are around my age are going to be having to tell these stories to small children when they're asking us, what happened to the world? and actually being able to confront, I mean, when I mentioned the remainder, I mean, the remainders of industrial civilization are going to be things we're going to be seeing and dealing with as we are in the process of creating this new mythology. And I mean, even just like watching like areas of cities just fall into complete wreckage due to the death of industrialism. I feel like we're already kind of in this time of mythic transition that our culture just doesn't know how to come to.
Well, again, you're falling right in my trap, because I'm here to tell you how to do that. Go for it. Who's next? Who's next?
I think it's important when he's bringing it up here is this little mini scenario, mini myth that you're creating here is taking place within a larger context.
Yeah.
The context of exploitation and colonization created the original picture, and now regeneration or evolution.
There's a powerful question that I think in the transition movement of a child coming forward from the future child saying, well, what were you doing when you realized what was happening in the world? And that got me moving, and I think that's one of the new, I suppose that's like a mythical thing from this present time, thinking of the future and what we're trying to do now. But in there I see having maybe, for some reason, messenger pigeons that can fly out when things get worse. You can have like a dovecot, but with pigeons that can take, send messages instead of mythical stuff.
I would insert that we have to look at chunks of myths and write locally. And although it's a good point that it is a larger context, it might be burning up down the road, but we got this beautiful green forest and we're going to protect it. So I write in terms of relocalization. That's my perspective. I want to bring that principle home. And I don't really worry too much about what's going on in Berlin or South America when I write these myths. I want to take them in chunks and make them relevant to children, especially. Make them as simple as I can.
I guess it just occurs to me that we all make up stories about everything that we do. I mean, everything that we do, we create a story around it. And it seems like more and more my generation, the younger generation, we're creating these negative stories. Like, why aren't we creating positive stories? Like, oh, instead of like the collapse of industrial civilization, I read the game too, and we just tried to put it down halfway through. Like, God, I can't take the depressing bullshit. But it was just like, it's like, why don't we create like these really positive stories? Like, oh, instead, like some evil genius who tapped into Tesla's energy is creating a generator inside this building is going to create power for the entire county. You know, like, instead of like figuring out how that we're gonna have a guard tower to protect the food forest that we planted from the neighbors who are gonna come and steal our chickens. You know, why aren't we creating these stories that have this positive vibe and this positive move forward? It seems like a lot of times when we create stories, we create negative stories to counterbalance the inadequacies inside of ourselves. We create positive stories and we promote ourselves to a better, brighter future.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, and I face it all the time. Do I write something that's totally positive? Doesn't really jive.
No.
Do I have something that's possibly reality checked in this 2035 era?
Right?
Because I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of problems
Yeah.
going through.
Totally.
So don't ignore it, don't sugarcoat it too much.
Right. But you can also have a optimistic perspective. I mean, a realistic perspective can be optimistic if you're doing things to promote your vision along the way.
Sure.
You know, that's why we're here. That's what we're doing in permaculture, is trying to create something that's better, trying to create something that's different from the cultural paradigm we live in now.
Right.
I was just gonna say that I think some of the power of myth is our ability through myth to explore shadow, but not necessarily like tell the whole, like, there's enough messages in the world that are these like explosive and oppressive messages, but like through mythology we can explore the shadow, and if it's not giving it a different light, then it's not serving its purpose. So like bringing it into a different light, which could feel like a positive story, or it could feel like just a refreshing, like we engage with shadow.
I think that point about being willing to deal with shadow as an essential part of it is something that our culture is very, very, very frightened of. And particularly, I hear a lot of what you're saying revolving around just the getting locked within a certain type of, I'm sorry, that light just disappeared. I'm going to let that one go. Going back to there.
That's okay. So anyway, unless you have other ideas or feedback, I'm going to try to hold this to an hour. What I would invite you to do is help me write this new myth 48, actually. And so if I can get your email or send me an email, I will drive the process that allows everybody's input to write this thing. And I'll put your name on it. So that's what I hope to do. I hope that some of you continue with me to do this work.
Can we get a consensus on the title? You see a lot of myths in the world around, old myths. You listen in, the raven steals fire from the sun, Hercules and the Titans. Shiva and Shakti, something that gives kind of a substance or an essence to the myth in the beginning, as kind of an understanding of the story that's being told.
Okay, and that's this list here.
Yes.
I really respect the old classics, but they don't jive with me anymore. I really want to get on to the new ones, heaven forbid. So this is the menu that I think you need, at least where I'm coming from.
Well, you gotta say there's something about the old myths that make them lasting. You gotta admit that there's something that touches on a deep, esoteric, and spiritual level that is the reason these stories have been told for thousands and thousands of years. And they don't have to be retold in the same way, but there is potency in them that they carry forward that we can't deny. And then, of course, we want a new story for people to relate to now in the transition.
Right. First point, I don't agree with you. I don't have any interest in old myths. I don't use them.
Right, but that's a personal bias.
Right, well, that's why I'm here. I'm telling you my bias. I'll be honest with you. So, I don't know what to say. This is exciting as hell. This is really powerful stuff as a start. And if in the process of collaborating on finalizing this, there's other mythic elements you want to bring in, let's do it. I'm not going to censor it. but I don't follow the old myths.
To me, is there some way of bringing the train in as part of the name, as the thing that's carrying forward, because it is a symbol of a form of transport that should be part of our future. And
It's there already.
and it's there, yes, because I came by train, that's why I
Right.
came here by train.
That's positive.
And it just seems like a beautiful way to carry that into the future, carrying the good things that they're coming through permacultures.
Anything else?
One thing that comes to mind is, like a sentence, this tower and tracks might be here in 25 years, we are in transition, and then maybe show your video, maybe show a decrepit, and then show the food forest. That I think the myth right now is the transition. How do we get from the mindlessness of overconsumption to
Right.
sustainability, which will be like the past. Like maybe a hand-powered railroad car, or a minimal use of a small train going by. I just thought that railroad track would be trashed, but
pulling
you
it
see.
along.
That's
Yeah,
what's
instead
great.
of them standing up there.
No need for
working
station,
down.
yes.
Well, yeah, that's great.
Power.
That's just part of the media construction part of this process. That's at the end. But I like it a lot.
Like the overall theme, yeah.
Yeah, start to finish or transition.
Yeah, so myth, we need a transition, how we can get to where we're going.
Okay. Yes.
And it doesn't have to be the engine that's powering that train. It could be horses that are pulling,
Yes.
or some other,
Well, the one's cars.
or, yeah, some other way that isn't the consumption.
Good.
But it's a way to bring
That's real.
compost into the forest and take food away to people at a distance.
Yeah. Okay, the plot and the compost thickens. So give me a sense, anybody want to help write this thing, finalize
I
it?
have a question.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm curious, so what is like the context, when we were hearing about like puppetry and street theater, and I work, with youth and with the community, like I'm interested in the conveying and sharing and creation of new mythology, and then I'm like wanting to situate this, because I'm also like having ideas of songs, like there's, I'm like, this convergence isn't enough singing yet, and like riding the train into like a brighter future, but what's like where do we get together and share these myths? I mean, I have ideas and experience in my world, and like in what I'm curious, like in your project that we're bringing our minds and ideas to, where does this go?
Where's it
Who
go?
sees it and who interacts and like
Where do you put it off the wall?
where's the storytelling venue? Like how do people connect to this?
Well, these are just my primary websites. I have a host of things I blast to, lots of this, so I'm personally contextualizing all that stuff. But
You do it.
And I feel like the question is, why do things go viral? If we can get something real powerful here, we don't have to worry about that. It will go viral. So the question is, why do you think viral touches something?
We've seen the cartoon Avatar.
Perhaps somebody
The cartoon series Avatar: The Last Airbender.
no,
That's a cartoon series from Nickelodeon that is a writing of a similar new myth, and it has morals, it has purpose. The reason I started watching it because the father, one of my best friends' father too, told me this is one of the most amazing cartoons that's ever come out that I've seen, and he's a teacher, and he said what morals and ethics my children are learning through watching this are amazing. One of his sons, like through connection and relation to this being an Avatar character in the movie or in the show, he's like, I'm a vegetarian. For his own purposes in understanding that and what the purpose he was talking about there, relating however that is in a moral base for everybody else. It's like he didn't want to create harm to anything else, and he wanted to learn how to garden. That's pretty big. Yeah. But it is based on theologies and mythologies of the past.
I'll take a look at it.
I would definitely check it out. It's potent. Avatar: The Last Airbender. The Last Airbender.
Is that, like, amongst all, like, intellectual college students gravitate towards this show just because it's, like, actually that? Like, I haven't spent much time watching it, but I've heard a lot of good things in terms of mythological capacities.
Yes.
Is there one thing that, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Absolutely love it.
There's a really
I
interesting,
think it's good for both.
um,
And you.
idea about mythology I heard recently, which was talking about kind of just the history of the names of the gods in certain cultures. And what this researcher was looking at was, when you go back a certain period of time, these kind of ideas of gods and these ceremonies that are around the gods, you reach a certain point where there's no anthropomorphization of the deity. So, like Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, at a certain point, is not represented in human form. And so the question that this philosopher asks, but when he asks, like, so what does Demeter become if Demeter is not this anthropomorphized being? And the thing that he ultimately comes to is Demeter is the harvest itself. That the god is the community's expression of and the story that surrounds this activity that they're already engaged in. So it becomes a power of naming that embodies kind of a communal power and a communal energy into the very soil and traditions and ways of interacting that people are already based in. And so as far as just the entire kind of basing this around a particular space, of course, is really important because, like, those of us who are going to be kind of working on these new myths as time goes forward, we're going to have to, like, ground it in what we're doing in our immediacy. Yeah. And that's the thing that I think we have to just, as far as crafting really poignant myths that aren't just like things that, kind of like future tribal things that might be projecting. It might be more kind of interesting to look at how can we use these new understandings, these new kind of mythologies that are coming out in permaculture sustainability to help ground us in our.
So we need a god of transition.
Well, permaculture could be the pantheon.
Right.
Could be.
Right.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
It's a win-win for us.
Absolutely.
Janus, the one who transitioned.
Two faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a real diamond. Real diamond was the game, so oh my god.
I need to.
Have you read this stuff? I need to. Diamond.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great.
One of the geniuses of fiction.
Yeah, it's complete fiction mythology. It's really beautiful.
I have something that's kind of like a jump and like okay, I'll bring it. I'm interested, like, to consider people, and I get the power of, like, that you can engage with something on a screen that really, like, you then embody in your interactions with your communities and in our lives. And I'm also really interested in, like, where storytelling and mythology kind of bring people together in a circle and transform place. And I just want to, like, plug, and I love this technique. Like, this is really, like, useful. Like, I'm trying to, like, look for a formula to, like, take and, like, map onto communities that I participate in. So it would be really exciting to think of, like, taking a picture of, like, the grid or the neighborhood and getting together with neighbors and saying, like, what would be our new story that we would write? How would we, like, transform this, like, abandoned alleyway into, and then write a story together and then, like, actualize it and say, like, right, there's food growing on the fences and, the old furniture is repurposed. So I just want to, like, presence that we can all, like, be the storytellers for our places, and whether it's, like, whatever communities we engage in. I love the sort of formula of, like, literally, like, looking at what does it look like now, or even what did it used to look like if you're, like, on your way to transforming a place, like, to catapult momentum into creating something new together.
Yeah, it's a real powerful and simple way to get started by describing what it is today. Look at how we did that to some beautiful way. I mean, the first one out was lonely. And this is just a building, talk stuff. So thanks a lot, guys. See you at lunch.